Hello, welcome to the Richard Donaldson Show, and in today's episode we're going to be discussing so many things. First of all, Henry Nowak, the young lad who was repeatedly stabbed by a Sikh man, and rather than get urgent medical care, when the police arrived, he was put in handcuffs and left to bleed to death because the Sikh stabber told police that he did it because Henry was being racist. On top of that, we will be taking a look at how Rachel Reeves, the UK's Chancellor of the Exchequer, got into a bit of a back and forth at a petrol station. After that, we really need to talk about how completely two-tier the British judiciary truly is, because who remembers Mohammed Fahir Amars and Mohammed Ahmad, the two thugs who assaulted police officers at Manchester Airport last year, breaking one policewoman's nose? Well, they've just escaped justice. And then finally, Restore Britain is set to stand in Makerfield. Are they just splitting the vote, or are they a very real and viable alternative for the people who get to put their cross in a box in just 3.5 weeks' time? This is the Richard Donaldson Show. I'm absolutely full of flu at the minute. I feel dreadful, but we're going to try and get through it. Now, before we get into it, I must ask all of you to please show your support if possible by hitting the like button, dropping a comment, or even subscribing if you are listening on a relevant platform. Please give a 5-star review if you're on the likes of Spotify, Apple, or other podcast streaming platforms. If you think I'm worthy of one, of course. Thank you so much. Okay, so today I want to start with the Henry Nowak story, because I genuinely cannot understand why more people aren't talking about this. Now, sure enough, there have been a few articles here and there, but no one's really taken the time to really dig into this in the mainstream media. The national and international press are mostly silent. And when you look at what the court has heard, has heard, this is one of those stories that makes you realise just how lost Britain is, and why so many of us completely despise what this country has become. Now, Henry Nowak, he was an 18-year-old lad. He was a first-year finance student at Southampton University, and on the 3rd of December last year, he had been on a night out with his football team, and afterwards he decided to walk home. But he never even made it to his front door, because Henry was stabbed to death, allegedly, because it's still going through the courts, by a man called Vikram Digwar. Now, Vikram denies this murder. I have to make that clear because, like I say, it's still going through the courts. But what I can tell you is what the courts have already heard and what the facts are so far. Now, what the court has already heard is absolutely outrageous. The court heard that Digwar was carrying a 21-centimetre bladed weapon in a sheath, openly over his clothing, as he walked through Southampton in the early hours of the morning. Why? Well, because in Britain, people are allowed to carry these ceremonial knives if it's part of their religion. Sikhs are allowed to do it. They get the kirpan. The Nepalese are allowed to do it. They have their own ceremonial knife as well, called the kukri. Now, carrying a 21-centimetre knife in public is illegal in the UK, unless we're bowing down to religion, unless it's for religious purposes. It's insane. I think they should all be banned. This is how soft and ridiculous this country is now. Now, Vikram Digwar, he's a Sikh, which means that, yes, he's allowed to carry a kirpan, a ceremonial dagger that looks like this. Now, when the police arrived on the scene, Henry had already been stabbed multiple times in various places all over his body. Yet somehow the court has heard that Henry was the one who ended up in handcuffs. Now, witnesses have testified that they heard Henry saying that he was dying. He told the police. And when Henry told the police on the scene that he had been stabbed, the police officer attending simply said, "I don't think you have, mate." And he was handcuffed. Henry was then heard saying that he couldn't breathe. Those were his final words. Henry died in handcuffs. Why? Because the Sikh man accused of stabbing Henry, told police that Henry had verbally, racially abused him. The Sikh man said that Henry was being racist, and that's why he did it. Now, I am sorry, but what on earth have we become in this country? If someone is lying there saying, I've been stabbed, surely the first thing you do is check if he's been stabbed. Not have a debate over who said what, not start worrying about so-called, racism allegations. As a police officer, why would you place so-called political correctness above life-saving first aid? You check the lad first, surely. You look for blood, you look for wounds, you find the knife. You get medical help. That should be the priority, surely, except on this occasion, it wasn't. Because it looks like the moment the word racist is mentioned, everything else becomes second priority. The accusation becomes the emergency. Not the fact that a child is bleeding to death. I know he was 18, but at my age now, everyone is a child. I don't care. He was a kid. An accusation of racism seems to trump absolutely everything in the UK now, even survival. And that is where we are at in Britain right now. We've created a country where the word racist has so much power that people panic. Police panic. Employers panic. Universities, journalists, the mainstream media, politicians, everyone seems to panic. The moment the word racist or racism are mentioned, people panic. And look, I'm not saying racism should be ignored, of course not. What I'm saying is that an accusation of racism should not carry more urgency than a young lad bleeding to death in the street. It should not ever override common sense. It should not override basic policing. It should not override the first duty of any emergency response, which is to work out who is injured and who needs help. We are in serious trouble, and I think this story, it should be front page news everywhere, but it's not. Now, it doesn't just look like one awful incident. It looks like a symptom of a country that has been trained to respond to certain words with fear. And I think a lot of people know exactly what I mean. The moment someone shouts racist, everything changes. People stop thinking normally. They stop being pragmatic. They stop asking obvious questions. They start thinking about optics. This police officer was probably thinking about complaints. People start thinking about headlines. Oh, I'd hate to be accused of being racist. That's the worst thing possible. We've got to get past that. This police officer was probably thinking about their career. Oh, well, he's this Sikh guy's accused this white guy of being racist. So, that's my priority right here. Because that's the way they've been trained to think. Now, I have had it with this woke bullshit. And here's the thing. I don't care if he did say something racist. I don't care if Henry did say something racist. Words never, ever justify physical violence on that sort of scale. Ever. Now, I know some people will immediately say, well, the police didn't know what was happening, or maybe the police officer wasn't aware. Fine. Well, let's have that conversation. What would the police officer have seen when they turned up, when they arrived at the scene? Well, they will have seen blood. Did they hear Henry saying that he'd been stabbed? Yes, the courts have heard that. So why was he then ignored? Why was he then placed in handcuffs? What are we actually looking at here? Well, I think we're looking at a police officer who should go to jail. Because Henry Nowak did not make it home. He was 18. He had his whole life ahead of him. His family now have to sit there and hear the details of his final moments in court. And the rest of the country is supposed to just, quietly move on because the story is awkward or doesn't fit a certain narrative. Well, I don't accept it. And in fact, let's delve even deeper, because according to prosecutors, Digwa was actually carrying 2 blades. One was a smaller kirpan, which is associated with Sikh religious practice, and Britain does allow legal exemptions for Sikhs to carry a kirpan, as I've said. But the court also heard he was carrying a much larger knife. It was a 21 centimetre Shashtar. Now, a Shashtar knife, okay, it's a ceremonial knife as well, but it was 21 centimetres long. He was carrying it over his clothing. He was strutting about in public with it, proud of it. Now, the prosecution argued that the smaller blade already satisfied any religious obligation. So then the obvious question is, why was the larger blade being carried? And why is anyone walking around Southampton in the early hours of the morning with an 8-inch knife? I did a short video on this the other day, and some blue-haired, hairy armpitted woman said that I was being racist. Where's the racism? It's that kind of bullshit rhetoric that scares people into behaving like this police officer did. Except it doesn't work on me. It doesn't work on me. This rhetoric doesn't work on me. I will discuss this openly. People like me, we won't be browbeaten into silence. Ordinary British people are being told to tone everything down. Don't be too patriotic. Don't fly the flag. Don't say the wrong thing. Don't be too proud. Don't offend anyone. Don't question anything. Don't notice anything. But then when it comes to other cultures, other religions, other communities, suddenly everything becomes very delicate. Suddenly you have to respect their right to carry an 8-inch knife at night. Suddenly there are exemptions. Suddenly we have to be careful. And people are fed up of it. We all remember this piece of shit, don't we? George Floyd. Nobody was allowed to ignore this story. The whole world was told to say his name. Celebrities were posting about it. Footballers were taking the knee. Billion-pound corporations changed their logos. Schools were teaching lessons about it. Councils were getting involved. He even had statues and effigies put up. There were international riots. It was everywhere. The world was outraged because some junkie who liked to beat up women, let's look at him again, and he beat up women and burgled pregnant ladies in their own houses and put a gun to one pregnant woman's tummy and said, "Give me everything or I'll shoot your fucking baby." Now, George Floyd was a piece of shit who died of an overdose. This has been proven by the autopsy reports. But the police officer, doing his job, it was the training he received, he was leaning on his neck. It was a perfectly viable restraint method under that specific police department's training manual. But he still went to jail because of the public outpouring, because of the protests, because of the violence that we're seeing on the streets. So why is there so much silence around Henry Nowak? Well, who remembers the Syrian refugee boy a few years ago? Now, he was placed into a British school and he had a fight. Now, there were many rumours around this that he was violent. He'd been attacking other pupils, particularly other girls. And so one lad in particular had enough of him and decided to make an example of him. And they got into a bit of a fight. And some water was poured on the Syrian refugee's face. Some water. Some water was poured on his face. And that was worldwide news, wasn't it? For water. Because he was brown, he was a Syrian refugee, and it fit the narrative. But Henry's being forgotten. The media machine, the celebrity machine, the corporate machine, when they don't want to talk about it, when they don't want a story amplified, when they do want a story amplified, you can't escape it. It's on your TV. It's on your phone. People are talking about it in work. It's in your children's schools. It's in sports, in adverts. It's everywhere. So where is that machine right now for Henry Nowak? Where are the celebrities? Where are the footballers? Where are the politicians? Where are the corporations? Where are the endless debates? Where are the people who said silence is violence? Do you remember that? They said silence is violence. If you're complicit, you're part of the problem. Well, they seem pretty silent now, don't they? Now that it's a white boy on UK soil. The UK is now a country where You're bumped down the housing list if you are white. You are refused jobs if you are white. And an ethnic minority also applies for the same role. Go and Google it. Police forces, the NHS, even our own armed forces openly brag about the fact that they are doing what they can to hire less white people for so-called diversity. And now white people aren't even worthy of making the news cycle when they are slaughtered in their own towns. Rest in peace, Henry. I won't forget this. I won't forget you. It's time to move on. And this is a story that really kind of warms my soul. Let's try and bring it up a little bit now. So Rachel Reeves, Chancellor of the Exchequer, we all know who she is. Surely you know who she is. Well, she was out filming some sort of Labour promo propaganda video at a local fuel station. And well, she wasn't best received. Take a look.
You are Nigel! They're arrested! We've got English flags on here, Rachel. We're going to get arrested. You're ruining the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England flags. You're useless. Labour parties are useless.
I love our country. And one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British. News about the freezing.
Not very British. I love it how he's like, go on, Nigel Farage. Like, I think he means Rupert Lowe, but he's like, go on, Nigel Farage. Like, I love the fact that he's completely ripping into her. Like, he's ripping her to bits. He's ripping Labour to bits, but do you know what? He was very British about that. I don't think he was overly rude. I think he's got a lot to say. I think a lot of people right now have got a lot to say, and so that's what he was doing. I don't think people are going to fall for that kind of gaslighting that Rachel tried to put out there. Then, part of being British, being polite. It's like, nah. Do you know, like, they're all despised, aren't they? Like, what's interesting is that Rachel Reeves tries to give the bloke a lesson on manners and being British, but I tell you what wasn't very British, Rachel, pretending there was a financial black hole of up to, £60 billion, and then hiking taxes to pay for your made-up black hole, and committing mass fraud on a scale that, quite frankly, should have put you in jail for life. Putting up taxes for struggling families, I'd say that isn't very British either, to be honest with you. I'm just one of the little worker ants who pays his taxes off now. Has anyone else noticed that, like, the taxes, they can go up like 2%, but that 2%, man, it's just enough to push you right over the edge. But yeah, it is what it is. I actually called the police on Starmer and Reeves last year. I'm going to play that for you now and see what you guys think. But yeah, I actually called the police because it was fraud what they did. It was fraud. They lied to the British public. They said that there was a financial black hole when there wasn't, so that they could essentially justify upping taxes. So I'm going to try and play that for you now.
I'm still trying to process what's just happened. I'm in genuine shock, yeah? So this morning I reported Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves to the police for fraud. I called the Metropolitan Police first, and they said I had to speak to my local police force. They wouldn't touch it. So I called Cheshire Police, who, despite me saying there is clear evidence that these people have lied to the British public to gain a financial advantage by taking more money off us through tax for a reason that doesn't even exist, despite the evidence showing that these people have committed billions of pounds worth of fraud against all of us. Just watch what happened.
Please note the following options have changed. If you are ringing...
Just ringing to report a crime, please.
Yeah, do you want to tell me briefly what's happened?
Yeah, there's two individuals who have committed fraud on a mass scale. It is well documented. There is plenty of evidence, so I just need to report it, please.
Right, okay. How's this fraud sort of taking place? Sorry, is this all online, or what's the score with it?
Well, you may have seen it in the news. So it's my true and honest belief that these two extremely prominent figures have committed fraud against tens of millions of people to the tune of billions of pounds. So obviously, as a British citizen, I feel it's my moral obligation to request a police investigation into this. I can't give you the details of the people involved.
So have you been a victim of fraud yourself?
Yes.
Sorry?
Yeah.
So if you just give me the brief, so
Yeah, of course. So basically, it's based on reports released by a public body. They're called the OBR. And considering the recent reports in the news, and then in conjunction with public statements released by these individuals, I believe that they've committed fraud on a mass scale and even breached the market abuse under the Financial Services and Markets Act 2000.
Right, so what has happened to you individually then? So what's happened to you regarding it and the fraud which has been taking place?
I've been lied to many times in order to hand over more money. Well, what's happened is, obviously, you've got Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer who have stood publicly and stated time and time again that there's a black hole, a financial black hole that we need to pay into. As a result, they've raised taxes and levies, etc., which I believe is fraud because they've lied. And like I say, due to reports that the OBR have released, also evidence within the media and things that I've seen personally.
So you're the suspect. Sorry, who is the suspect? Are you saying?
The suspects are our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and Rachel Reeves.
Right, okay. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to put you on hold.
Okay, thank you. Hello.
Hi, thank you for holding. I just wanted to get some advice from my supervisor. Yeah, regards to this, I won't be taking this report from you. What I would recommend for you to do is, if there's an issue in regards to that, you need to go onto the House of Parliament website and take a complaint through there. Okay?
Well, the issue is that they're all complicit because obviously it's the Labour government that are doing this, and this is happening on like a multi-tier level. So I would essentially be reporting them to themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but again, like I said, I've spoken to my supervisor and that's the advice I've been given to provide for you, okay? So I'll log it down from obviously the conversation we said and what I've been advised to say to you and what to do, but otherwise that's as far as it's going to go from our side of things, okay?
Okay, it's just that because what I am reporting is a potential crime, so I don't understand why the police wouldn't then pick up on that because I'm reporting what I believe to be a crime.
I'm not going to get into it with you, Richard, okay? I've just given you the advice on it. And like I say, you can take the advice if you wish, but like I say, I'll log it and what we've advised, you can take the advice.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so just to clarify, I'm reporting a crime. You said that you're not going to investigate it, and I need to speak to the people who are committing the crime, potentially.
Right. I'm not going to get into this with Richard, but I am going to end the call for you, okay? But
can I get a reference number, please?
Yeah, of course you can. So it's Charlie Romeo November, then it's 364-8447.
364-8447.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Cheers. Bye now.
Bye.
So there you have it. There you have it. Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, the Labour Party have lied. They have purposefully misled the British public. They have purposefully jeopardised our investment opportunities as a country. What do you think happens to the market, to investors, potential investors going forward, if they think there's a country has a financial black hole that they simply can't plug? And they start having to drive up taxes and the population becomes poorer and people can't buy things because they've got no fucking money. What do you think happens to international investment when that happens? These people are committing fraud, purposefully misleading the British public and people around the world in general. Like I say, potential investors. They're lying. They are committing fraud. And the police, our police force that we fund, won't even investigate it. They won't even look into it. She wasn't even going to give me a reference number. She was going to terminate the call, she said, and I had to ask for one. I urge every single person watching this to pick up the phone. It takes a couple of minutes and report Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves for fraud. We need to make noise about this. We need to let them know that we're not going to go away. This has got to be answered. There has got to be an outcome to this. We can't just allow this to be swept under the rug. I'm fuming.
I got so much stick for that off the trolls online. People were saying I was wasting police time. Like, yeah, I got so much abuse for that. But you know what? I don't really care. It was fraud. I don't care. I reported it like a good citizen. Now, before I move on to the next story, I need your help. I don't earn any money whatsoever from my social media, and I don't get any corporate backing. I do what I want. I don't want corporate backing. I won't have people telling me what I can and cannot say. So that means that I could really do with your support. As a personal favour to me, please consider heading to nationalprotest.co.uk/donate to support me with as little or as much as you like. You can do as little as £1. You can set it up as like a recurring payment, a one-off payment. It really is up to you. But it really does help me to remain independent and able to bring you the news uncensored and unbiased. It also helps with my activism work, my charity work, my travel up and down the UK. And it means that I can do everything full time and not have to balance a full-time job with everything else. So please, please, if you can, as little or as much as you're able to do, please, please do. Thank you so, so much. Right then, next up, and this one is sure to make your blood boil. So who remembers these fuck nuts of I'm just going to show you them. So this is Mohammed Fahir Amaz and Mohammed Ahmad. Mohammed Amaz and Mohammed Ahmad. There are billions of Muslims on the planet. Like, why are the names all so similar? Like, it must get so confusing. Well, these two specimens who assaulted police officers last year at Manchester Airport have essentially just had their case discharged. The jury reached no verdict once again, so that's the second time now. Whilst it is technically possible to have another retrial, a third one, it is highly unlikely. Now, each of these trials has cost in the region of around £1 million for the taxpayer, so we've already spent £2 million trying to send these parasites to jail, and it's not gone so well, has it? It seems that if you post a tweet online, you can get banged up within the week and sentenced to 2 years in prison. But if you attack police officers in an airport and then scream, racism, you get to walk scot-free, or as I like to now call it, Mohammed-free. Take a look at the clip here.
The man in the light blue tracksuit is Mohammed Fahir Amaz, confronting a man he said had insulted his mother. He headbutts him and follows up with punches. This set the scene for what came next. Police officers were called, and at a car park pay station they moved in to arrest Amaz on suspicion of assault. His brother, Mohammed Ahmad, was with him. In a flurry of punches, Amaz strikes PC Lydia Ward in the face, breaking her nose. PC Ellie Cook is also struck.
Now, so Mohammed assaulted someone at the airport because he says that they insulted his mother. And then when the police arrived to arrest him because he had assaulted someone, he attacked the police, breaking one female police officer's nose. And yet, no sentence, no conviction, nothing. If you're a current serving officer, please get in touch. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know what your colleagues think about this. Your details will never be made public under any circumstances. It will stay with me. I really am interested to know what the everyday Bobby thinks about this. What do you think about this, sitting at home, seeing this footage or listening to it if you're on Spotify? How can it be the case right now in Great Britain where, we've seen people arrested they were at protests. Some guy said to a policeman, "Your horse looks gay." He was thrown in the back of the van and all right, he was never convicted. But it seems to be the case that when you say things now, that takes precedent. You can be arrested, you can be thrown in jail. But if you literally assault police officers, breaking one police woman's nose, you get to walk scot-free after Mohammed-free after multiple trials. Doesn't make sense. Next up, after an astonishing victory in Great Yarmouth, where for Restore Britain under Great Yarmouth first, where all 10 seats were won by a huge margin, and it was a huge margin. Rupert Lowe's brand new political party, Restore Britain, has set its sights on Makerfield. Now, at first glance, you might hear that and think, well, so what? You know, a party putting up a candidate, what's the big deal? You might even think, oh no, they're going to be splitting the vote. Well, this isn't just any by-election. This one could literally decide who becomes the next Prime Minister of the UK. And because of that, a lot of people are getting pretty upset with Restore for standing. Now, as many of you know, I am a branch organiser for Restore Britain. I can't speak for Restore Britain. I can only speak for myself. But rest assured, like, I will never jump into this form. I will never jump into this from a biased perspective. If I disagree with something Restore do, I'll just make it known. However, on this occasion, I fully support this decision. You see, our glorious leader, Keir Starmer, is under massive pressure right now. 90 of his own Labour MPs have publicly said that he should go. The problem for Labour is that they don't have the same straightforward leadership challenge rules as the Tories. So one contender has to win enough MPs back in to force a vote. Wes Streeting has some support, but it's not enough. And then there's Andy Burnham. Now, he's popular in parts of the north, but he's not even an MP. So how did this all come about? Well, Labour MP Josh Simons has deliberately resigned his seat in Makerfield to trigger this by-election and create a fast track for Burnham to get into Parliament and then challenge Starmer. Now, our initial thoughts might be, well, good, we want Starmer out. But the thing is, Burnham is actually even more to the left. He's more of a lefty than Starmer is, especially on things like immigration, for example. So while plenty of us want Starmer gone, giving power to someone who is even further left is not what we need right now. Now, if we look at Makerfield itself, 97% of the people who live there are white. 68% of them identify as Christian, and almost 2/3 they voted for Brexit, which we never got. So Makerfield is what we could describe as being old school Britain. It hasn't been decimated by immigration or this new age liberalism. It's the epitome of working class patriotic Britain. So that actually puts Restore in a really strong position. Look at Great Yarmouth. Yes, it was already Rupert's constituency, but it is a similar story there. 94% are white British, and plenty of working class people who are the lifeblood, heart and soul of this country also live there. So it's a very similar story. Now, I believe that Restore are going to win this by-election in Makerfield, but even if they don't and they come second, and it would be second if they don't win, but they are going to win, it will make it so that the establishment, the media and other political parties have to start taking us more seriously at Restore. Every news channel would have to cover us. Now, many people are starting to realise that Reform are just Tory 2.0, and people are essentially preparing to hold their nose and vote for Reform because they don't really see any other option. But Restore is gaining ground. Restore is becoming that other option. The tide is turning because now people are starting to realise that Restore, they're a genuine alternative. Restore isn't about making, or in fact, let's rephrase that. Restore isn't about taking on a bunch of foreign MPs to appease quotas and DEI and try and attempt to appease those who may be more liberal and actually believe that diversity is our greatest strength, because it isn't. Instead, Restore say, we don't care. We want to put British people first in all circumstances. And that is why I believe that in a place like Makerfield, Restore will do incredibly well. The people of Makerfield deserve the chance to vote for a party that actually puts them first. Now, they might be furious that their MP resigned just so the party could parachute in a future leadership contender. So this is our moment to give them that choice. Let's take a look at Restore's local candidate who's actually from the area. She's a local businesswoman. Her name is Rebecca Shepherd.
I would say a common sense party with a trustworthy leader who cares about his people, his constituents, doesn't try and lie about anything, and just really wants the best for the people. And that's it, isn't it? That's all we want. We just want to be recognised. We want us as British people to be put first.
100%. By Restore Britain.
Restore Britain.
Well done.
Now, some people have been quite quick to judge Rebecca and say, you know, oh, she doesn't speak like a politician. She seems very ordinary. She's not polished. She's clearly not had media training, etc. Well, yeah, that's the point. Do we really want some polished career politician, or do we want someone local with a real background who knows what it's like to live in this very area? I would much rather have a straight-talking local businesswoman running as my local MP over some stiff in a suit who went to private school and has never put a day's shift in and has never gotten their hands grubby. We want proper candidates, proper people. That's what we need in Makerfield, and I think it's what we need in every single election going forward. We need real people to be governed by real people. Thank you so much for watching. Got through it in the end. My throat is on fire. That is it for this week. I'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much.